Hello, this is Dr. Greg Mays with your Word Wednesday. This week, I want to talk to you about fighting. No, not this kind of fighting. Spiritual warfare, spiritual fighting. You know, as Paul finished his time here on earth, he writes a second letter to Timothy, and he knows that his time is coming to an end. His time on earth is coming to an end. And as a part of the letter, he says to Timothy that I am being poured out as a drink offering. And he knows that it's his time and he's going to go be with the Lord. And then he says these words that many of you have probably heard. He says, I have fought the good fight. He says, I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. You see, it's important for us to fight the good fight. My wife and I have been married for about 30 years, and from time to time, I will say to her, and this has only been in the last few years, I would say something would happen. I don't know what it would be. It could be anything. And I'd say to her, you know, several years ago, or at the beginning of our marriage, that would have been a fight. You see, at the beginning of our marriage, there were so many things that I thought, I've got to argue about this. I need to fight about that. But the reality is, not everything is worth fighting over. If you're honest with yourself, most things are not worth fighting over. But when they're worth fighting, then you fight the good fight. As the lady said in War Room, you fight on your knees in prayer. I want you to take a listen to this excerpt from a message by Dr. Tony Evans. Just a little bit of background. This sermon that he's preaching, that you're going to watch a little bit of, he preached days after the death of his wife. He's sharing from his heart in a time that most of us, we probably wouldn't think that we could even stand in front of people, and yet he's preaching and honoring his wife. Take a look at this.
If you, at your time of departure, want to be able to connect with heaven, you better choose your fights wisely. I look at some of the stuff Sister Evans and I disagreed over. Most of the time it wasn't huge stuff, but when I look back, even the non-huge stuff wasn't worth the disagreement or not talking for a day or whatever the result was. Why? Because it wasn't beneficial. So when you look at your battles in life, you must ask the question, not am I fighting, but is it worth the battle?
You know, Dr. Evans shows us that God is on the throne by the strength that he shows in his word and by the strength that he shows by being able to stand up and do what God is calling him to do in the midst of probably the most difficult time in his life. You see, Dr. Evans is teaching us, even by his actions in this season, this is how you fight the good fight. And when you fight the good fight, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, God, fights for you. And you don't have to worry, because in Jesus Christ, you win. That's done. I pray that this is a blessing for you. Remember, stay strong.